Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at a game that I sunk countless hours into, and that's SimCity on the Super Nintendo, which was developed under license from Maxis by Nintendo and released in 1991. Before we get started, I would like to dedicate this video to the Sin Man, also known as Cynical Enigma here on YouTube, since I know this game is one of his favorites of all time. For those not terribly familiar with SimCity, it's a city-building simulation game from Maxis that was originally released for the PC in 1989. It was a huge success, and later went on to be ported to just about anything that could run it. SimCity on the Super Nintendo is a good bit different from the original game. A lot of Nintendo's own little touches were added to this one for its release. When starting up the game, you're given a few different options to work with. You can jump right into a city-specific damage control type of scenario, work on your building technique via the practice mode, or jump right into creating a city from scratch. When starting your own new city, the first thing you'll have to do is pick out a land area, and the game has tons of them to offer. Once you find one that fits your own grand idea, you pick your difficulty and begin. The difficulty in the game really only affects how much starting money you have when building, and it's usually best to go with easy since it will let you build up much faster without having to worry about any real money management early on in the game. Well, you've got your land, your cash, and your hunger to build a thriving metropolis. Now it's time to place some zones. In SimCity, there are 3 major zones that you'll have to build: residential, commercial, and of course industrial. You can see the current demand for each zone in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and you'll want to build accordingly. The zones populate based on their demand and don't really require any action from the player aside from just reserving the space and placing them down. On top of the 3 major zones, there are also a plethora of other buildings that can be placed, like police and fire stations, parkland, power plants, etc. More buildings will become available as gifts later on once your city starts to develop. As you've probably noticed, there's an awful lot to take in as far as information goes, but luckily our SimCity mascot Dr. Wright will pop in from time to time and give you hints and tips, as well as warn you of pressing dangers and of course natural disasters. Speaking of which, you'll definitely want to keep your eyes open. There are plane crashes, tidal waves, tornadoes, and even Bowser himself will decide at times to take a leisurely stroll right through the middle of your bustling city. What a jerk. SimCity isn't just about building and maintaining though. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that you'll also be taking part in. Every year, you'll have to balance and adjust the budget to allow for some positive income flow, keep up to date with crime, traffic, and even your own approval rating as mayor. As your starting village grows and gets populated, you do level up in a sense. When you reach certain numbers of citizens, you get a new title. For example, your town will reach city status once you have 10,000 residents, and it continues all the way up to a megalopolis, which is hundreds of thousands. Luckily, SimCity is a cartridge that comes with a battery backup, so you do have the ability to spend a bit of time on your city, save it, and come back to it later. You may be thinking to yourselves, well, how does all of this work with a Super Nintendo controller? And I can answer that. It's excellent. The controls are perfectly suited to the standard controller, and they work like a charm. Menu navigation is quick and easy, as is building and maintaining your city. The visuals in SimCity are far from what I would call exciting, but it's an appealing game, if that makes any sense. Everything is bright and colorful, and the added effect where the seasons change is a really nice touch on the Super NES version. The sound effects and music are equally effective, and the music is extremely memorable. The cool thing about SimCity on the Super NES is that whenever your city changes its status and upgrades, it gets a new theme. Each one is great and enjoyable to listen to, even after hours and hours of gameplay. SimCity is a hard game to do a review on. I can't possibly touch on every single one of its features, and that's part of what makes it so great. It's such a complete game, and it has infinite replayability. It's incredibly easy to get lost in too, and you may be shocked at how much time ends up going by in just one session. If simulation games are something that interest you and you've never played the Super Nintendo version of SimCity, I highly urge you to pick it up. It's a tremendous game that will sink its hooks into you and keep you coming back for more. Personally, it's my favorite version of the game, period. Nintendo's subtle influences really add a lot to an already fantastic game and make it a must-own for the Super NES. As always, guys, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for watching and subscribing, and until next time, stay classic.